about that? Some of you are not so happy. But we are looking at data. By the way, EHS SAT scores actually increased in total verbal and total math from 2001 to 2005. If you look at the data, something really dramatic happened with the 206 results. Folks, the bottom fell out. But the bottom fell out everywhere. And you know why? Because the College Board changed a version. Its version. Significantly different. So, when we look at that portion from 2001 to 2010, we look at 2006 to 2010, I think we get a very different picture. And I'm not going to read every test score, but at the end of the day, when you look at East Penn compared to state averages and national averages, we seem to be doing okay. Now, is there room for improvement? Well, if you're concerned about SAT scores, I guess one could make that argument. But remember, a lot of colleges are getting rid of a SAT as a reason for being accepted into college. Well, let's look at math. Basically, same scores. So the point I'm trying to make is when someone says our test scores decline, on face value that may be true, but I think you really need to get the data and look at it. It's a very different story when you look at the data. And I would think, if you're going to put that on campaign literature, you really need to be able to speak about that. Now, I know one of the things that's being talked about, not only on campaign literature, but on the minds of every taxpayer, and I do want to take a moment to address this because we have done this routinely at our board meetings, and that's fiscal responsibility and quality education are not conflicting goals, and I would say I would agree with that 100%. But I think this district has an excellent record in this. Let's take a look at some of the reasons why I believe that. Now, I spoke passionately at a board meeting about the Center for American Progress report entitled Return on Investment. This is a remarkable study done by a lot of smart people. And what they looked at, two things, basically, student achievement and what a community pays for its education program. And folks, the good news is our scores came out with the highest rating on ROI, which is return on investment, and adjusted ROI categories. Now, this tool, this study, it measured productivity in schools, measured academic achievement relative to its spending, and it includes variables out of a district's control: poverty, cost of living. I mean, the result is East Penn residents are getting a superior education for a fair price. What else? What other indicators do we have that we are already offering a quality education program with a high degree of fiscal responsibility? There are other agencies that identify East Penn as being fiscally responsible. Moody's, remember, we just refinanced bonds, saved about $9 million in the last 6 years doing that. We got a phenomenal rating, A2, which is one of the highest ratings that Moody gives. Also, the costing out study. Let's look at the costing out study. We didn't commission this, the Pennsylvania legislature did. It was released in 2007, and I've talked about this when the report was given. I've talked about it to our staff members. It's posted on our intranet, and I've talked about it to community groups. And this is why we got a small bump in basic education funding. We were underfunded to the tune of $2,291 per student. And you take 2006 enrollment, which is what they based it on, 7,827. Kids, you do the math, 17 million underfunded. And under Governor Rundown, the legislature made a commitment to address this over an 8-year period. And this is why I'm saying politically, and every time I meet with Representative Reichley, I remind him of this, and everyone else should. Here's something I think really needs some conversation. Pennsylvania student spending has grown by 30% from 2001, 2002 to 2008, 09. Much faster than inflation. And again, I posed this question to some of my friends this weekend. And my friends happen to be a vice president of a bank, a president of a major tax collecting group, a CFO of an international cement company, and the first thing they said was, what's the context? What does it mean? Well, so I'm going to frame the issues. How does East Penn compare to other local districts, and how well is East Penn doing in comparison with other Pennsylvania school districts? Where's the data? And again, we don't make this data, we don't manufacture it, it comes right from the State Department. There it is, folks, 2001, 2002, Allentown, all of our friends in Lehigh County, all listed for you. So in 2001, 2002, East Penn, on our average yearly membership, spending per pupil, we were spending at the rate of $9,393 in 2001, 2002. So go right across, and the latest data we have is 2008, 2009, that we were spending at $12,287,000. If you look at the districts, so I take this as sort of a criticism that we're spending at a clip that's beyond the 22.4% inflation rate. Well, again, I think it's all relative. If you look at all the districts, Allentown 46%, Caddy 72%, East Penn 31%, and so forth and so on, I think we've done a remarkable job when compared to our neighbors. So let's see what's happened statewide. Folks, board members, in the year 2001-2002, we were ranked 156, and it starts from the top to the bottom. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, we were down 156. In that time, from 2001 to 2002, to 2008, 2009, we dropped, I want to repeat that, dropped to 281. I look at that as a red flag. I really do. And the question I've been asking people in the community is, how much more can we withstand before we start to get into a crisis with some of the wonderful programs we offer in this district? On the flip side, I think it indicates that we've had a degree of fiscal prudence and that we really have an exceptional program. And again, I'm going to emphasize this, at a really fair cost to our taxpayers. I mean, folks, we dropped 125 places in 8 years. Imagine some of our critics if we have to defend it the other way. I look at this as a message that there are 125 other school districts in Pennsylvania that invested more in our kids than we did. I wonder if they got the results. And we did. And we've been saying all along, and those who read my letter, I posted my letter to the representatives, Senator Brown. What have I said? Come here. We'll serve as a model for you. Come here. Look at what we're doing. Now, another thing that concerns me, I'm going to take some time to go over this again. Mr. Bell, maybe you can pass these down. And I apologize. Evidently, I made a mistake. I'm here to correct it tonight. When I look at literature, it says we owe 160. You don't have it, I'm sorry, but trust me, it's here. If you look at the chart, the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that indeed we do owe $166,583,904 in debt. And I think if you look at the capacities, I showed you a couple of moments that I think it's certainly those numbers justify some school construction. We can always debate about the cost. That's not the point. What concerns me is the declaration that we're spending $16 million in this budget for debt service. Well, if you find a number 166, see that every board member? You see that? Now take your little finger and go up until you hit the total. It's $14 million and basically $8,000. That is what we're going to be paying next year, not $16 million. That's a $2 million difference. It represents 1.25 mils. Somebody needs to correct that. I think I know what happened. If you look at your chart, because I was driving Mrs. Erdeval crazy. I think someone went in and fooled around with two different documents. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but not likely. Somebody went in, pulled this number off the chart, because I did give it publicly, and by the way, it is on our website. But then somebody else went into the preliminary budget and picked off our estimated debt service payment, which was $15.9. And what have I said repeatedly for the last 2 years about preliminary budgets? They're not worth the paper they're written on. So I'm trying to figure out why someone would go to a document that's meaningless, pull off a number, and then use that as some kind of drop-dead number. It's this ingenuous. It's wrong. Also, I passed this out the last board meeting, and we'll put this on our website as well, a nice colored map. It shows the history of each one of our bond issues and when they're going to be retired. If you look at the very tip top for next year, it barely hits 14 million. You don't see 16 million anywhere. So again, when people talk about transparency, I think we have. What I'm concerned about is that people don't take the time to read the data we give them. And finally, I want to talk about the literature that I think put two of our schools in a negative light. Well, I'm a little worked up about this. Being the chief advocate for our schools, I want everybody to take a look at Lower Country Middle School. Because on that campaign literature, I don't take it again as another positive. It says we have a school in mourning. Well, let's look at and see exactly what that means. So we're going to look at AYP to PSSA test scores. Lower Country, all of our white, non-Hispanic students made AYP. All of our economically disadvantaged students made it as well. All of our Black, African, heritage students and non-Hispanic students made it as well. All of our Asian, Pacific Islander students made it as well. All of our special needs students, and by the way, folks, those categories are LD, emotionally troubled, autistic students, speech and language, hearing. Am I saying this is Harry? It's the same categories. All those students made AYP, and congratulations to them in reading. We also met AYP attendance standards. However, we actually made 13 out of 14 standards. We did not make it in math. And I'm not going to get into how many students did not make it, but it's a small sliver of students in that school. And so for someone to put out campaign literature, to put that school in a negative light, no, I'll stop there. Let's go to Alberta's. I think my fellow board members, and I am a 10th member of the board, that's why I can call them fellow board members, I think we dedicated at least 2 board meetings to talking about Alberta's. And again, I want to thank Dr. Tormo. If you're talking about data, we have the best person in the country, in my humble opinion. She is a data genius. She went after this like a dog with a tasty bone. And again, what upsets me is that this was listed, we have a school and school improvement. Nothing on that document talks about what really happened there. First of all, and the state even agrees with this, it's kind of an anomaly. The kids aren't, most of the kids aren't even in that school anymore. That doesn't stop us from monitoring their progress, but they're not there. And yet, we had to go through all the gyrations, all the work of getting a school improvement plan done when next year, guess what? It's irrelevant because we will not even meet the number of kids needed for a subgroup. And so if someone would point this out as a negative to our school, I'd say, you don't know what you're